The team at Supergiant has come a long way, from Bastion in 2011, Transistor in 2014, and now Pyre in 2017. They seem to be a studio that's only capable of outdoing themselves, kind of constantly pushing their craft and creating unique adventures that get you to feel things. Joy, sadness, anger, and what I can only really describe as a gusto to get shit done. Their games are challenging and they get you to form connections with whatever characters they populate these fantastical universes with. Pyre is proof of Supergiant's ability to get players to really invest in the characters that they craft into their games and to get the players to build relationships. Without relationship meters or reminders that characters are going to remember your actions, Pyre actually gets you to form connections with these characters that you come across. You feel joy at their growth, sadness at their loss, curiosity at their past, and even a kind of saudade when characters are no longer around. This is one of the only games where I've missed having a character around, and it stung a few times during my playthrough. In the world of Pyre, you are an outcast. You're sentenced to exile and the downside for breaking a major law of your city. You meet another group of outcasts, each with their own reason for being exiled, and then you learn about the rights. It's a game of sorts that has two teams of three trying to extinguish the opposing team's bonfire by getting a MacGuffin ball into it. People participate in these rights for many reasons, with the most notable being a fight for freedom. The winning team of a liberation right gets to set one member of the party that participated in the right free. It's through this tournament type thing that you meet a whole bunch of incredible characters, developing an attachment to them as you work towards or against a common goal. A lot of the character development in Pyre and the attachment that you form with these characters as a result is achieved through small side conversations. When your wagon is stopped, you can hop in and there's usually an NPC with something on their mind. Sometimes they just say their piece and move on, but other times they come to you for advice. But every time you talk to them, you learn something new, even if it's just that they talk to your wagon or that they're deathly afraid of heights, even though they hide it behind a knightly manner. Some of the first decisions you make result in characters confronting you or reacting in some other way. By having characters react a few times to the choices you make, they become more believable. And from then on, anytime you make one of these choices, you find yourself thinking about how the characters involved might feel, even if they're not interacting with you after the fact. As an example, early on, and by early on I mean like 20 minutes, so I don't really think this is a spoiler, you're given a choice of two paths that you can take. One recommended by Rookie and the other recommended by Jody. Whoever's path you don't pick is gonna be on the wagon later, and they'll confront you in their own way about your choice. This kind of choice comes up over and over throughout the game, but this isn't really directly done again, but some interactions only happen if you make certain choices. As an example, the white-haired girl will try to make friends with a strapping young man from an opposing triumvirate. And the only reason this happens is because you picked that specific character to participate in this specific rite. Not too long into Pyre, you have to start picking who you want to actually participate in the rites. The first time you make that choice, whoever you leave out directly reacts to the situation. There are times when interactions happen between characters that are chosen, sometimes even interactions with the opposite team like the one I mentioned before. There are even two characters that just absolutely refuse to participate in rites together, and that adds a really interesting dynamic and builds their character story into the gameplay. It's through these implications and subtle interactions that Pyre builds up every single character, both on your team and those that oppose you. Everyone you meet has their own goals, beliefs, and backstories, and that makes the world believable. During my first liberation rite, I actually had to sit back and think about who I wanted to be set free if I won. And honestly, looking back, I still don't know if I made the right choice. The high stakes of this rite, the intensity of the music, the amount of trash the other triumvirate was talking, and my investment in the fate of my teammates all combined to put me on edge. I was shaking with fear, confidence, and maybe a little bit of anxiousness the entire time. When I won, I actually shouted and jumped out of my seat. And then my chosen was set free and I was brought back down. It's a somber, sobering experience. I had played for hours with this character and I'd begun to wonder if I'd set them free too soon. It's actually kind of funny because for the next couple of rites, I actually expected this character to be there, and when he wasn't, it brought all those emotions back. The feeling kind of reminds me of when a friend moves away. You think to yourself, oh, I should see if they want to hang out. And then you remember that they're out of reach. And there's that twang in your heart. Your actions in Pyre are permanent, and the results of rights cannot be undone. Once a member of your triumvirate is set free, they are gone for good. And it's very real because of the attachment that the game gets you to grow with these characters. And that's where all the weight comes from. I know it's sappy and it may seem a bit silly, but Pyre really is just that good at punching you in the gut. Considering that the core gameplay is kind of a sports game, something typically played for mechanics alone, it's kind of wild that Pyre puts so much effort into getting you to build a connection with the events of each right and the stories of each of your teammates. For me, the entire game has become a bit of a battle with myself. Do I let my favorite characters go free to live happy lives in wealth and comfort? Do I keep them around, wanting their company and needing their support in rights? It's an incredible dynamic that really does get me to sit and contemplate my options more than some of the decision-making games in recent memory. I'm looking at you, Telltale. Pyre is really a game about selfishness versus selflessness, and the message really only comes across after it gets made clear just how much power the player has to shape the fates of the characters around them. It's a game that asks you to think about your values. It forces you to get a little introspective, and it really makes you feel the weight behind your choices, all thanks to the phenomenal character writing and the methods they use to develop them. That's it for this episode of Bytes. I hope you enjoyed. What do you think about Pyre's methods for building characters? Did you have any moments in the game that really just tugged at your heartstrings? Or do you know of any other games that kind of have this method of character development and do it well? Let me know down in the comments or tweet at me. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to do the YouTube doodly doos. I'll see you next time. Bye!